Are you new to project management and wondering where to start? This video will take you through just that, how to start a project. Project lifecycle has distinct phases, from starting a project to closing it. We want to offer you a small sample of what you will learn in the Praxis Framework Foundation training, so you can start learning how to run a project and experience Praxis for yourself. This video is going to cover the first phase of the project lifecycle, which you can see here. How to start a project. The Praxis framework calls this stage identification. To help introduce the project lifecycle to you, we're going to assume the project being worked on is a simple, medium-sized project in which each step in the lifecycle follows the previous step consecutively. So, let's get started. How do projects start? With an idea. For example, at APMG, we create quality training and certification. So for us, the initial idea may be triggered by a subject matter expert in project management approaching us and suggesting we create a new course. We then need to decide if this seems like a good idea and whether the course is worth creating. This is the identification phase, which is how Praxis recommends you start all projects. The goals of the identification phase are to develop an outline of the project and assess if it's worth doing, to determine what effort and investment is needed to define the work in more detail, and to gain authorization for the next phase. At the end of this phase, there's a gate. This is a point where a decision is made on whether or not the idea is good enough to proceed to the next more detailed and therefore more costly phase of defining the work involved. To help the decision makers decide whether or not to proceed with the project, Praxis recommends you create a brief and a definition plan. Don't worry, in a few minutes we're going to expand on exactly what these documents are and even provide you with some free templates. Okay, you now know that the first step in starting a project, the identification phase, is where you investigate if the idea for the project is sound and whether or not it should go ahead. Let's get into exactly how you go about investigating this. So someone has had an idea. The person who will investigate this idea has received a mandate. Mandate is the term given to whatever triggers this process. It could be minutes from a management meeting, the award of a contract to supply, or simply an email from a senior manager. Next, a team needs to be appointed to perform the steps in this phase. At this point, a sponsor is usually appointed and, if possible, a project manager. The sponsor will own the project and make the go, no-go decisions throughout the life cycle. The project manager will have responsibility for the day-to-day management of the work involved. Whatever the size or complexity of the project, the responsibilities of each role need to be clearly understood, and role descriptions should be agreed to at this stage. The sponsor and project manager should check they understand the mandate and, if necessary, fill in any gaps and clear up any ambiguities. They can then agree the time and budget required to carry out the activities of the identification phase, and they will assemble any other team members they need. During these steps, any information gathered should be recorded for use in the brief and definition plan. Until these formal documents are produced, it's recommended that the project manager maintains a diary known as a daily log. This can be used to store information about assumptions, risks, issues, and constraints. In the description of this video, there's a link to where you can download a free template for a daily log. Now, the team is in place, and they should review previous lessons to see if there's anything they can learn from past projects. If there are no formal lessons documented, perhaps you can chat to people who were involved with similar projects in the past in order to get this information. The lessons you discover, either formally or informally, should be recorded in a lessons log, and there is a link to a free lesson log template in this video's description. The team, armed with their knowledge of lessons learned in previous projects, can now prepare a brief. The brief formalizes the mandate and outlines the proposed project. The level of detail required in the brief will be influenced by the cost and risk of the proposed project. The identification team will establish the stakeholders' requirements and develop a solution and scope of work with estimated high-level timescales and costs. You prepare a brief so a decision can be made on whether or not to proceed to the more detailed definition of the work, which is the next phase in the project lifecycle. When thinking about what content to include in the brief, you need to ensure you give the sponsor enough information, enough details, for them to be confident when they authorize the budget for the definition phase. And once again, there is a link in the description of this video to a free brief template. There's a template with notes giving you advice on how to fill the template in, and a blank version available. Also prepared in the identification phase of the project is a definition plan. While the brief outlines the project as a whole, the sponsor also needs to know what is required to produce a full set of documentation. For example, are any specialized resources required to create the detailed definition? Are these resources available? Are there any risks specific to the definition phase? Once you've created the definition plan, then it and the brief are submitted to the sponsor, who will decide if the project should proceed. As we mentioned earlier, this decision point is called a gate. It's where the decision is made whether the project should carry on to the next stage in the life cycle, where the work required will be defined in more detail. So the identification phase is finished, your project has started, and hopefully you have received authorization to continue. At least that is how it works in theory. If you'd like to hear how it works in practice, here is Rebecca Cumming, a P3 manager at Bedfordshire Police, discussing how they have applied the identification phase of the Praxis framework in their environment.
My name's Rebecca Cumming. I'm currently a P3 manager at Bedfordshire Police. I've got about 6 years experience in project programme management, working on projects and programmes of varying size. So in our workplace, whilst we've got a defined corporate approach to project programme management, one thing that we didn't do before the Praxis course was produce a project brief. So now, as part of our identification part of the process, we will now produce a project brief.
We hope this video encourages you to check out the completely free guidance at praxisframework.org. And if you're interested in training, the APMG website address is in the description. And best of luck getting your projects off to the right start.